How's it going? This is Dylan, and today we're going to talk about Kemper versus regular amp and pedal board. So almost daily on the internet there is some sort of, or probably more than once a day, there is probably some sort of war going on between Kemper guys and amp guys about which one is better, and it almost turns into this thing where you either have to be a Kemper guy or you have to be an amp guy. So today we're going to talk about the reason why that doesn't make sense. There's no reason to be either a Kemper guy or an amp guy. First of all, let's just talk about anything that we buy. Any of our gear that we buy is just a tool to make music, right? It's just the thing we use to get the tone that we want. So whether the Kemper does that or a regular amp does that, it doesn't really matter. Whether a Fender amp does that or a Marshall amp does that, they both do it. They just do it differently. And that's exactly the thing with a Kemper and a regular amp is this thing can do things that this one can't do. And this one can do things that this one can't do. They're just different tools in the toolbox. There's no sense in having you have to be on one side of the fence or the other. It just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't ask a mechanic to have either a 3/8 inch ratchet or a 1/4 inch ratchet in his toolbox, but not have both. They do similar things. They can cross over some things, but they don't do both things perfectly. You wouldn't ask him to have one. You wouldn't ask a general contractor to have just a sledgehammer or just a framing hammer. They're two different tools that do similar things. Yeah, you could cross over a couple of the tasks, but they're different tools that look the same, kind of are the same, but aren't the same. That's exactly what this is. There's no reason to try to pick sides on it, and there's no reason to look down on somebody else that sees it differently than you. So let's talk about some virtues of both of these things and how you can actually make use. If you're an amp guy, die-hard amp guy, there's ways that you can make use of a Kemper if given the opportunity. If you're a die-hard Kemper guy, you've switched completely over, there's also some reasons to have an amp still around. I mean, I do. Just so you know my story, you know I was a tube amp guy. I played an awesome amp for a few years, and then I went to strictly a Kemper. All I had was a Kemper. Recently, I've gone back to this Creation Music Company pedal board, some Keeley effects, brown face reissue Vibreverb, and I play both of them almost equally, actually. I play this one almost as much as I play this one, but in different circumstances for different reasons. So let's talk about that. Some virtues of the Kemper. First of all, there's thousands of amp profiles out there, and it's really fun to have that many amp profiles in one place. The other major thing that sets this apart is connectivity. So having 6 different channels on the back of here, being able to go out to in-ear monitors or stage monitors or out to the house, headphones for practicing at home. Now I have an amplified one, so I can go out to a guitar cabinet. We're going to talk about that later. The ability to do so many different things is pretty sweet. Also, to be able to run stereo is another big thing, okay? But running direct out and also running direct out, but that creates some of its own problems that we're going to talk about later. The other thing is to have a whole plethora of effects at your disposal that you can kind of build your own rig and be super flexible with is pretty cool. Let's go over to the amp. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, but there's nothing like that vintage tube feel. Besides the fact that Kemper's got it pretty good. The thing about it is the sound. You're right. You're just right. The sound in the room of this amp cranked with a pedal board and some, like I got a Keeley D&M drive here. This thing, it's gnarly. There's nothing like it. It's awesome. That being said, it's loud, right? It's loud. So guys that are wanting to go for lower stage volumes are going to use this thing, and you're going to use this thing when you don't care so much about that. You're right, the feeling in the room of having an amp cranked wide open, and I think a die-hard Kemper guy is gonna say the same thing. It's just a strength of one tool over the other. It's not that it's better or worse. If you're not getting the feel out of your Kemper that you feel you should be getting, then there's some other options to talk about. We have this video that we shot. We'll put a link of it up here in the little thing for the YouTube video about running a direct cabinet out. Man, it changes everything. It gives you that feel in the room. But a lot of venues want you to have a lower stage volume, so that's kind of where this thing wins. It's just virtues of one versus the other. I love this. That's why I got another one. There's no reason to say I'm either an amp guy or I'm a Kemper guy. You can be both. There is nothing wrong with that. The other thing too is, if you're not getting your sound that you want out of a Kemper, fiddle some more and ask some more questions, because it's the same thing that happens here. There are just as many questions on the internet every day about why I'm not getting the right tone out of this pedal or that pedal or this amp setting or this or that. That's why we have a YouTube channel. We had that problem before we ever had this. Getting your tone out of a rig, period. The principles are nearly the same no matter which one you have. Believe it or not, as much as people say I can't get the right tone out of a Kemper, more people are saying I can't get the right tone out of this over here because I don't know what I'm doing yet. It's the same thing over here. If you're not getting the right tone, just ask more questions and learn some more about it, because it is incredible. Now, what about the people that say, yeah, but man, the A/B tests and stuff, and I can tell the difference? In what environment? When you go out to a show, when you go out to a live show, to a concert, and your favorite artist has switched to a Kemper and didn't tell you, you wouldn't know the difference. You only know the difference when somebody tells you, or it's not up to your standards only when somebody tells you that it's happened. If they've switched to a Kemper or an AXFX or an AX8 or a Helix or any of these modeling amps, and we could just like throw that all in there. It's just like a lot of times they'll change an overdrive pedal, they'll change a compressor, they'll change a reverb. On a conventional amp, they won't tell you. You won't know the difference when you go see them live or hear it on a record. So there's no reason, like all the comparison lines just kind of get like blanked out. So the point of this really is, if you are a die-hard amp guy who is like totally against Kemper, just do some research and realize that it's just another tool. It's just like buying another pedal, it's just like buying another amp, just like buying another guitar. And for the guys that say the problem is it's so expensive, this thing isn't more than another guitar. It's about the same price when you really look at it as any boutique amplifier or any really good guitar. It's really not that expensive. I would just recommend to you, spend some real time understanding the tone that comes out of this one and understand how this thing works, and do some research on it, and just take that line out of the middle and just say either this is an amp or this is an amp. They're both amps. They both make music and they both do the same thing, just different. Just like a Fender, just like a Marshall, just like a Vox, just like a Ford, just like a Chevy, just like a 3/8 inch wrench or a 1/2 inch wrench. They'd all do the same thing, just different tools. My name is Dylan. This has been Dylan Talks Tone. Obviously it's a little bit more of an opinion piece, but it is relevant. I want to know what you think. Have you spent real time with a Kemper? I don't mean just demoing for like 2 minutes at the store. Have you spent real time with a Kemper, and what are your impressions? Or any other modeler, Helix, AX8, AXFX, whatever. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this, and if you want to try, or if you're having problems with getting tone out of this rig or this rig, and let's talk about it. Ask some questions and we'll make some more videos about all this kind of tone stuff. My name is Dylan, and this has been Dylan Talks Tone.